I'm the Chairman of Integrated Payment Technologies Limited. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our annual general meeting. Because of the unprecedented times we have at the moment because of COVID-19, this meeting has been held in a way that shareholders and their representatives can participate safely via webinar. I'm advised the quorum is present and the time is now 11 o'clock. I declare the meeting open. I'm joined today by my fellow directors, Paul Collins, Non-Executive Director, and Sandra Barnes, Non-Executive Director. Also present is our Chief Executive Officer, Dean Martin, our Company Secretary, Julia McGregor, and Rosie Isabel and Matthew Levacy from Grant Thornton, our auditors, are also present. There's no recorded apologies for the meeting. Now, the last meeting of the members of the company was the general meeting that was held on the 8th of October 2020. The minutes of that meeting have been signed as a correct record and available for any member who wishes to view them. The notice of the annual general meeting was dispatched to members on the 17th of December, and I intend to take the notice of the annual general meeting and the explanatory statement as read. As previously advised, this is a virtual meeting and shareholders will be able to participate, view the live webcast of the meeting, ask questions, cast votes via the online portal whilst the meeting is in progress. The format of today's meeting is going to be firstly a presentation by our CEO, Dean Martin, who will present an overview of the company's current business, activities, merger proposal, etc. The shareholders will consider the vote of on the proposed resolutions as set out in the notice of annual general meeting. I propose that those resolutions then are asked, and then you can ask any questions as we go through each one of those resolutions. Questions can be asked on the Q&A session. A poll will be conducted on all resolutions. We'll open the poll when the resolutions are being addressed, and shareholders and their representatives will be able to vote on the resolutions as and when they are being addressed. If you have any questions in relation to the resolutions, please type your questions in on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll address those questions on each resolution. The shareholders will then be given an opportunity to ask general questions, time permitting, and we'll be also able to ask any questions that you wish at the end of this, the formal session. It's now my pleasure to hand over to our CEO, Dean Martin, to provide an overview of where the company is today and the merger proposal. Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, Don. Hopefully you can all hear me clearly. Look, just for practical reasons, it might be best if I answer the questions throughout the presentation. So I'll keep an eye on questions. And Gillian, if I miss any, could you just highlight them to me? I will keep an eye on it, but sometimes I get a bit caught up. So yeah, just help me out with that. But look, firstly, during this morning, I'll step through this agenda and as Don said, just clarify what we've done in the last financial year and also get into the significance of the merger with ComplyPath for our business. So welcome. I'll jump straight into the highlights. And as I said, please do ask questions as we step through. Notwithstanding lost income from historically low interest rates, which challenged our business model, the highlights from the financial year are focused around the Tipsco acquisition and a successful redevelopment to ClickView, our payments, compliance and engagement platform, which I'll discuss further on the following slides. The continued growth of ClickSuper's payroll network, which is key to our strategic direction. And last but not least, the continuous business improvement, which we externally verified with increased verification, for example, SOC 2. It should be noted, SOC 2 is gradually becoming a requirement to service large enterprise clients like superannuation and government departments. We were fortunate to work with some industry veterans and aggregators who have been very generous with their time and insight to guide the ClickView proof of concept, which gives us both expert knowledge and broad market coverage for PayView's proof of concept. In addition, we're selectively working with a number of service providers to highlight valuable solutions for employees and employers as we increasingly move to a digital economy. Brad Riley, our Chief Innovation Officer, has been burning the candle at both ends to ensure ClickView is a modern, scalable and efficient platform to easily engage with for our payroll partners and service providers, and simultaneously easy to access for employees and members. For a more technically minded, please follow the link at the bottom of the screen to hear a technical update from Brad directly. Click Super. For those of you who are not in constant contact with the payroll industry, please note the pace and scope of compliance changes has been continuous and continues to be significant. Facilitating federal government's COVID stimulus for initiatives like JobKeeper and JobSeeker, STP or Single Touch Payroll 2, and Rollovers 3, along with Your Super, Your Future packages, literally has the industry run off their feet. Luckily, we're well positioned to enable the desperately needed turnkey solutions to meet these compliance requirements. Further, InPayTech enhances and future-proofs our customers' solutions. For example, for fund stapling, we're also providing an engagement solution to align periodic payments with employees, employers and payrolls able to seamlessly transition from default funds to fund stapling. PayView. Despite COVID restrictions effectively removing industry events, conferences and expos, the key elements in PayView's go-to-market strategy, we have a committed core of bookkeepers and SMEs or small medium businesses constantly using the service. While we're waiting for the restrictions to be removed, we're enhancing PayView with the latest technology to accelerate payments and future-proof our solution for things like e-invoicing. The proposed merger. For those who have not already read the independent experts report on the proposed merger with ComplyPath, I strongly recommend that you do. It provides good market insight and a comprehensive analysis of the advantages and disadvantages of the merger. While there are a multitude of good reasons for the merger, it really boils down to 5 key details. The merger gives InPayTech access to award-winning technology, positions us to deliver complete end-to-end solution for employers, payrolls, tax, superannuation, and increases our financial strength, options and stability, provides the engine for future growth, which I'll unpack further on the following slides, given our businesses, technology and teams really do complement each other, which is well demonstrated in what InPayTech have achieved in payroll, being mirrored in what ComplyPath have achieved in superannuation. Ultimately, we share a vision which we can execute faster and smarter together for the benefit of our stakeholders. And again, I'll unpack this further on the following slides. This slide attempts to visually represent how we can deliver a transformative platform to repurpose quality data for employees' financial well-being and to create moments of delight in typically mundane compliance and payment processing. Let me explain by highlighting a couple of these for you now, logically starting with worker onboarding. By applying role-specific verification, employers can tailor the onboarding experience. Take me, for instance. I was required to do a police check, academic verification and credit check when onboarding for my role. By tailoring this process to employees and employers' requirements, they mutually benefit. Let me explain. By integration with payroll and trusted sources like the ATO, onboarding can be automated and data like address details, visas, working status, tax file number, and fund details can be validated at the point of entry. What this does is ensure that quality data is captured and maintained by employees to minimise compliance risk, rework, and data errors. For example, confirming visa working rights significantly reduces risk for both employees and employers. In addition, tailoring onboarding for employees via a highly streamlined experience enables the process to be leveraged and elegantly introduce an organisation's values and employee benefits. Finally, by ensuring quality data, we enable workers to repurpose their data for their benefit. For example, to access frictionless and fair lending, or to verify income and employment details. Now, taking a close look at superannuation. When a worker changes roles or employers, we notify their superannuation fund and provide a simple way to ensure the fund has their up-to-date role, contact and address details. Regular engagement in transitions like changing employers can help to significantly reduce issues like lost super and multiple super accounts. Members having multiple super accounts collectively cost hundreds of millions in additional fees each year. And I think most people know that there is over 20 billion in lost super in Australia. In short, with ComplyPath, we provide a complete hire to retire solution, which creates moments of delight for employees as they navigate through their careers with different employers, goals, and requirements. This slide unpacks some of the key challenges faced by participants in the hire to retire ecosystem and the complementary nature of our businesses and technology. By working with ComplyPath, InPayTech can provide solutions to each of these challenges. Let me illustrate the power of our merging by focusing on payments, clearinghouse, and secure data transfers. Our data transfers and payments are focused on enhancing security and again, enabling quality verified data to be repurposed. Starting with enhanced security, most people outside of payroll and superannuation industries don't know what so-called channel B processing is. Subsequently, most of you will be horrified to know processing STP or SuperStream typically requires employers to export data outside of access-controlled, password-protected, and audit-log payroll systems, unnecessarily exposing personal and private information. We remove the need to expose identity data onto desktops or shared drives by always keeping the data in the plumbing with API or system-to-system transfers. What I mean by this is we enable employers to process contribution payments without exposing name, date of birth, tax file number, address and income details onto a desktop or shared drive where they can be easily accessed, viewed or stolen. In addition, to facilitate greater engagement, our platform can provide notification to confirm when payments have been made. These notifications can be used to seamlessly connect employees to financial services, for example, to check your super account balance or how much super you've paid to date, which is particularly useful if, like me, you pay right up to the concessionary contribution cap, which is currently sits at $25,000 annually. For anyone whose employer or themselves have inadvertently paid above the concessional cap, you'll appreciate just how valuable this type of regular and seamless engagement is. Now, let me talk to you a little bit more about repurposing quality data. We validate data to generate payments files. Subsequently, the data and payments always match or auto-reconcile. This, coupled with our ability to attach virtually limitless data to each payment, enables straight-through processing for our customers and partners, in the case of contribution payments for employees, employers, and superannuation. It also future-proofs our payment solutions for the increasing data requirements of compliance, sales, and marketing activities. On this slide, I want to share a bit of insight on some of the activities to date. Integrations with two major web-based payrolls to deliver worker onboarding, a major consulting firm leveraging Bond to provide managed services for large employee compliance and HR functions, major tier 1 and tier 2 accounting firms in the pipeline to drive tax and business reporting automation for their clients, an agreement with a major contingent workforce manager to provide a license for Bond's onboarding solution, demonstration of the new super reforms fund stapling concept to employers and super funds via the onboarding solution, effectively solving compliance for 40,000 employers and 1.5 million individuals, and of course, creating turnkey solutions to help existing and new customers solve for the pending regulatory changes from STP Phase 2, Rollovers 3, and fund stapling. Now, I think this slide really speaks for itself. It really graphically highlights the financial drivers for the proposed merger, illustrating that we are stronger together. Again, I urge you all to read the full independent experts report, but wanted to highlight their analysis consistent with our goal to profitably provide a transformative platform to repurpose quality data for employees' financial wellbeing. The independent experts report provides a comprehensive analysis on the proposed merger. However, it should be noted 2.5 million in forecast ClickView income has not been included in their projections. And further, approximately 35 million in potential revenue from risk-weighted sales pipeline was not included in their projections either. Through the comprehensive due diligence process, I've been fortunate enough to experience firsthand the depth and breadth of experience the proposed board brings, and I look forward to the opportunity of working with the board to deliver true and ongoing value for all our stakeholders. I appreciate it might be a little difficult to read the details on this slide, but I encourage you to do so at your leisure after the AGM. Through the presentation, I believe I explained how and why the merger is the smartest and fastest way for InPayTech to properly provide a transformative platform to repurpose quality data for employees' financial wellbeing. However, if I haven't been clear, the key elements are highlighted again on this slide. Award-winning technology, end-to-end solution for employers to superannuation, revenue diversification, significant additional growth opportunities, highly complementary and synergistic businesses. Thanks for your time and attention. And first question, when will ClickView launch to the greater market? Look, we're in the proof of concept at the moment. We, as I've sort of highlighted on a couple of slides above, we should have our first service provider with a solution in market this financial year. So subject to them being ready, look, we're just going through some testing with them at the moment. We'll have the first service provider on PayView available this financial year. Thanks for that question, Luke. But look, yeah, thanks for your attention. If there are any other questions about where we've been, what we've done, or why the merger, now's the time to ask, because I'll be handing over to Gillian just to talk to you about how you can vote.
Is that another question there?
Yes, I have another question. Yep. So, Luke.
Okay, we're just waiting for Luke to ask this question. You will have another opportunity at the end to ask further questions.
Luke, are you typing that question now? We might address that one later, which is while Luke gets it up. Oh, here we go. When will the transition to ClickView platform of employees start from ClickSuper and ComplyPath? That's a big question, and not one that's easy to answer in this forum. But look, we have already conducted some pretty extensive workshops, so that transition can happen quite quickly. That said, it's a little bit premature for me to be advising on when we will migrate into ClickView. You know, the merger hasn't happened yet, and we really need to get through a few procedural things before we can really unpack and get into the detail of what's required to do that transition or migration of ClickView and ComplyPath into that ClickView platform. How's the Westpac Clearinghouse possibilities looking with regards to taking a share of the business? Not sure this is the right, I mean, look, thanks, Luke. It's an interesting question. Not sure this is the right forum to address that. Look, I might see if anyone from the board
Look, maybe I can assist on that. Westpac is obviously a competitor out there in the space, and we're very pleased to have Emma Dobson on as a director shortly. And she was right at the start of the whole service that Westpac provided. So Westpac is a competitor out there. They are doing a lot of things in their business of simplifying it. We don't know what their intentions are going forward, but we're here, and so we'd love to have a chat to them at some point. But we're very happy to have Emma on board. Her experience in this industry is next to no one, and we're very happy to have her on as a board. I think it's a major step in our complete understanding of the industry. We know it very much from a payroll point of view. Emma's experience is very much from a superannuation funds point of view, where Westpac signed up the majority of all the superannuation funds to provide services to them. I hope that helps, but we can't clarify something which we don't know. Okay, if there's no more questions, I'd like to hand over to Gillian to discuss the voting and the poll procedures.
Sure. Voting at today's meeting will be conducted via an online platform as set out on your screen. For those entitled to vote, if you have not already done so, please log into the online voting portal as set out in the notice of meeting and the online voting guide provided with the notice of AGM. If you have any issues casting your votes online, you can call our share registry boardroom on 1300 737 760 within Australia or 612 9290 9600 outside Australia. Voting on all resolutions today will be conducted by way of a poll. Voting will shortly open for all resolutions. Following confirmation by boardroom, final poll results will be announced to the ASX later today. If you have already lodged a valid proxy form, either in hard copy or online prior to the meeting, you do not need to vote again. Your votes have been recorded and are included in the proxy results. Okay, so the total number of proxies that have been received by the company on or before the proxy deadline will be set out on your screen. If we move to the next slide. I'll now hand back to our chair, Don Sharp, to open the poll and propose the resolutions.
Thanks very much, Gillian. I hope that clarified the procedures. The poll is now open and you may now cast your votes while we go through the formal business section. The first item of business on the notice is to consider the financial statements of the company for the financial year ending June 2020. It seems to be a lifetime ago. Together with the declaration of the directors report, remuneration report and auditor's report. I ask any questions and discussions are confined to this topic as we go through it, and also any questions on the conducting the audit. There's an opportunity later in the meeting to ask any other more general questions. So if you have a question on the financial statements, please go to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and ask the question. Are there any questions on the resolution, Jill?
There are no questions in relation to the financial statements.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the next item, which is resolution 1, which is to consider and if thought fit to pass as a non-binding resolution. And that resolution is the remuneration report as contained in the director's report of the company for the financial year ending June 2020 be adopted. As mentioned earlier, the proxies on this resolution are shown on the screen. Does any shareholder have any questions or comments about the remuneration report? And if you have any questions in relation to that resolution, please type them in the Q&A box on your screen. Gillian, do we have any questions?
There are no questions on resolution 1, no.
Thank you. The poll is now open and you may cast your votes on this resolution in a manner described earlier. We now move on to resolution 2 in relation to my re-election. I'll hand over to Paul Collins to move this resolution, as clearly I have a conflict. Thanks, Paul.
Good on you. Thanks, Don. I move to resolution 2, which is to consider and if thought fit to pass an ordinary resolution. That resolution being that Donald Sharp, who retires in accordance with clause 13.3 of the company's constitution and, being eligible, offers himself for re-election, be re-elected as a director. As mentioned earlier, the proxies on this resolution are on screen. Does any shareholder have any questions or comments about this resolution? If you do, please type them in the Q&A box on your screen. Gillian, do we have any questions?
No, there are no questions on resolution 2.
Thank you for that. The poll is open. You may cast your vote on this resolution in the manner described earlier. So I'll now hand back to Dom.
Thanks, Paul, for that. It's good to see I've been re-elected. I now move on to resolution 3, which is to consider and, if thought fit, to pass as an ordinary resolution. That Sandra Barnes, who retires in accordance with the ASX Listing Rule 14.4 and Clause 13.1D of the company's constitution, and being eligible, offers herself for re-election. As mentioned earlier, the proxies on the resolution are on the screen. Does any shareholder have any questions or comments on this resolution? If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box on your screen. Any questions, Jill?
No, there are no questions on this resolution.
The poll is now open and you may cast your votes on this resolution in the manner described earlier. Now let's move on to resolution 4, which is considered, if thought fit, to pass as an ordinary resolution. That's subject to the passing of all other required resolutions to the extent required under the provisions of the Listing Rule 7.1, and for all other purposes, the company is authorised to issue 573,260,447 shares in the company to the sellers on the terms and conditions and in the manner set out in the explanatory statement. As mentioned earlier, the proxies on this resolution are shown on the screen. Does any shareholder have any questions or comments about this resolution? If you do have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box on your screen. Gillian, do we have any questions?
No, there are no questions on this resolution.
Thank you. The poll is now open and you may cast your votes on this resolution in the manner described earlier. I now move on to resolution 5, which is to consider, if thought fit, to pass as an ordinary resolution. It's subject to passing of all other required resolutions for the purpose of item 7 of section 611 of the Corporation Act, and for all other purposes, approval is given to the company to issue 573,260,447 shares in the company to the relevant sellers, and to enter into a voluntary escrow deed in respect of those shares in the company. As a result, Unlock Investments Proprietary Limited or its nominee, and Digital Niche Investments Proprietary Limited or its nominee and their associates, GIB Consulting Proprietary Limited or its nominees and its associates, and the company and its associates will acquire a relevant interest in the shares of the company on terms and conditions and in the manner set out in the explanatory statement. As mentioned earlier, we hold proxies on that resolution which are shown on the screen. Does any shareholder have any questions or comments on this resolution? If you do have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box on your screen. Gillian, do we have any questions?
There are no questions on this resolution.
Thanks, Jill. The poll is now open and you may cast your votes on this resolution in the manner described earlier. We now move on to resolution 6, which is to consider and, if thought fit, to pass as an ordinary resolution. That's subject to the passing of all other required resolutions for the purpose of Listing Rule 11.1.2, and for all other purposes, approval is given for the company to make significant change of scale of activities resulting from the completion of the proposed transaction, as described in the explanatory statement. As mentioned earlier, the proxies on the resolutions are on the screen. And does any shareholder have any questions or comments on this resolution? If you have, please type them in the Q&A box on your screen. Any questions, Jill?
There are no questions on this resolution.
Thank you. The poll is open and you now can cast a vote on this resolution in the manner described earlier. I now move on to Resolution 7, which is to consider and if thought fit to pass as an ordinary resolution, that the company's employee share option plan be approved by the company for the purposes and approval be given in accordance with ASX Listing Rule 7.2, exception 13B, of the issue of the securities from time to time under the employee share option scheme as an exception to the rule of ASX Listing Rule 7.1 and for all other purposes. As mentioned earlier, the proxies on this resolution are shown on the screen. Does any shareholder have any questions or comments about the resolution? If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box on your screen. Gillian, do we have any questions?
There are no questions on this resolution.
Thanks, Jill. The poll is now open and you may cast your votes on the resolution in the manner described earlier. We're now up to Resolution 8. We're getting close to the end, which is to consider and if thought fit to pass as an ordinary resolution. That for the purpose of ASX Listing Rule 10.17 and Clause 13.4 of the company's constitution, the amount of directors' fees that may be paid in the aggregate in one financial year of the company to its non-executive directors be increased from 320,000 to 180, from 180,000 including super to $500,000 including superannuation with immediate effect. One of the purposes of this resolution is my title at the moment is an executive, and as such my director's fees aren't included in the current limit of 180. Now, once I move to a non-executive role, then they will be. And of course, we're also putting on additional directors and of quality, which like Emma Dobson, require to be paid accordingly. So as mentioned earlier, the proxies on this resolution are shown on the screen. Does any shareholder have any questions or comments about this resolution? And if you have any questions, please type them on the Q&A box on your screen.
Okay, there are no questions on this resolution.
Thanks, Jill. The poll is now open and you may cast your votes on this resolution in the manner described earlier. We're now to the lucky last. I now move on Resolution 9, which is to consider and if thought fit to pass as a special resolution. That pursuant to and for the purposes of ASX Listing Rule 7.1A and for all other purposes, shareholder approval on the issue of or the entity into agreements to issue equity securities representing up to 10% of the issued capital of the company, calculated in accordance with the formula prescribed in ASX Listing Rule 7.1A2 on the terms and conditions as set out in the explanatory statement. As mentioned earlier, the proxies for this resolution are shown on the screen. Does any shareholder have any questions or comments about this resolution? And if they would have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box on your screen.
Okay, there are no questions on this resolution.
Thanks, Jill. The poll is now open and you may cast your votes on this resolution in the manner described earlier. Now, the floor is now open to general questions or comments. And are there any questions or comments of the management of the company or the directors? Please type your questions in the Q&A box on your screen. We'll pause for a minute here to allow people to raise any questions.
There is one question that has been raised about whether a recording of this AGM will be made available to the wider market.
Okay, I think the answer to that is subject to the quality. Yes, we'll release the recording of the AGM. Any other questions?
Okay, there are no currently. We just give people a minute to respond.
Yes, sure.
Okay, yep, there are no open questions.
Oh, thanks, Jill. We have now considered all resolutions as set out in the notice of the annual general meeting. We now provide shareholders with additional 1 minute for a poll voting for completion if they have any votes that they wish to make on that resolution. We'll now pause for a minute. We only had 30 seconds so far. We've now waited 1 minute, so I now declare the poll closed. After the votes have been counted, the results of the poll will be released on the ASX shortly. The company has not received any notice of any other business. Do any members have any other matters that they would like to raise before I declare the meeting closed? Yes. Is there any questions, Jill?
There are no open questions, no.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, since the poll is now closed and there's no other business before the meeting, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you all for attendance, and hopefully next year we can meet in person, because it's very difficult talking to a screen, I can tell you. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.